Hey you guys, hi everyone. I am back with another lecture in Bridge Gap Academy, and I am talking about one of the most important topic again in the today's class, and we are talking about flower. Now when I talk about what comes in our mind? You will say, ma'am, that beautiful thing, yeah, the attractive part of the plant, isn't it? But that's it. That's all it is in the nature, the beautiful part which is there in the nature just to please human beings. No, of course. Flowers are having so many benefits, so many herbal role it plays. And in today's class, we are talking about, or we will be discussing about the parts of the flower. Now, what about the parts of the flower? Each part is having a particular function to perform. What kind of function? Either the protection function, or the rewarding function, or for the human things, for the fruit production, or for the seed production. For the nature, it is basically very beneficial, and that's what we are studying today. So when I talk about flowers, it is obvious that it is the most attractive part. But you should also know that flower is the sexual reproduction part of the flower, which I mean that is it a reproductive part? Well, yes, it is a reproductive part of the plant which are producing gametes. These gametes, when fertilized, zygote production, then that zygote increase to embryo, then embryo to complete other part, and so on. So it is basically the reproductive part of the flower and reproductive part of the plant, and not just the role of being the attractive part of the plant. Apart from that, we also say that it is a modified shoot. Why it is known as a modified shoot, this I will cover in today's class in just a moment. Just listen to me very carefully. But before that, what you should know is the largest and the smallest flower. The largest flower is known as Rafflesia, which is found in Indonesia, which is having a smell of a rotten meat. For us, it is rotten meat, but for pollinators, it is heaven. Of course, it is heaven. And the pollinator for Rafflesia is elephant, where the size of this Rafflesia is 1 meter in diameter. Whoa! Imagine. And the smallest flower is known as Wolffia. We say it is Wolffia ariza, also known as duckweed. You can see the hand dipped, and millions of flowers are there in the hand. Zero point 0.5 mm in diameter. It is that small, smallest flower. So largest is Rafflesia, and the smallest one is known as Wolffia ariza. Now, we are talking about the parts of the flower. But before I tell you the parts, just listen to me very carefully for the next 2 minutes. Imagine this my hand as a stem, a shoot. On shoot, the nodes are there. On each nodes, leaves are attached, isn't it? So suppose there are 4 nodes on this shoot and 4 leaves are attached to it. If from the top I compress this shoot, what will happen? All the parts will be lying one above the other in a compact manner. That is what is the flower. How? So when you just compressed it, there was a broad base which basically became a stem. That broad base is known as thalamus. Okay? The place from where you hold the flower, that part is known as pedicel. Now when you contract it, the lowermost leaf will become the outermost part, and that over here is known as sepal. The outermost part of the flower is known as sepal. Inner to sepal, the second leaf, that is basically petal, the most attractive part of the flower. What is sepal doing? During the time of bud condition, suppose this is bud. These are petals, that's why they are bud, right? So basically sepals are protecting them from outside. So in a bud condition, sepals have a role of protecting these bud. What are the function of petals? Petals are having a function for attracting the pollinators, so that they can attract for the pollination, they can produce more and more flowers, they can go for more and more reproductive activity, self pollination, cross pollination. We will cover that in our later classes. So that is what is the function of petal, attracting the insect for the pollination. Now I am talking about the innermost part first and then outer to it. The innermost part consists of three subparts: stigma, the receptacle, style, the long tube, and this ovary, the broad base. Stigma, style, and ovary, these three are all together known as carpel or pistil. Stigma, style, ovary, which is equal to carpel or pistil, they are the female reproductive part of the flower. On the other hand, if you see over here in the diagram, this anther, and lower to it filament, the long tube like structure. Anther, bilobe structure, filament, long tube like structure, together we call them stamen. And stamen is basically the male reproductive part of the flower. So remember the four things what I told you. Outermost is sepal, inner to it is petal, inner to it is stamen, which is the male reproductive part, and inner to it is carpel or pistil, which is the female reproductive part. What else I told you? That the place where you hold the flower is known as pedicel, and the broad base on which all these floral parts are there, sepal, petal, stamen, and carpel, we call that broad base as thalamus. This much is clear. Now next thing on this particular slide you can see is written bisexual. Bi, two, sexual, sexes. Two sexes are present in the same flower. Male and female reproductive part are there in the same flower. We use the word bisexual. In case of animals, when these things happen, we use the word hermaphrodite, like earthworm, cockroaches. They are all hermaphrodites. Similarly, over here, we'll come back to the topic. Bisexual is basically when both male and female reproductive parts are there. Suppose there is a flower with only female part, stigma, style, and ovary, only carpel or pistil. That is a unisexual flower. A flower with only male part, that means only stamen and anther and filament, that means only stamens are there. No carpel or pistil are there. That is again a unisexual flower. But if both are there in the same flower, we use the word bisexual. Clear? Now, when I say pedicel, that means that the flower is having the place to hold. So we call that flower as pedicellate flowers. The place where this or the flower where this pedicel is not there, we say such type of flowers as a sessile flower. Now listen to me very carefully. In the previous slide, what I was telling you again and again was part of the flower. Sepal is one part of the flower. Petal is one part of the flower. Was I using any other word other than part? No, because I'm talking about the individual part. But what if I talk a bunch of that part? For example, over here in the diagram, you can see that this leaf type, 5 leaves type structure are there. If one leaf I say is a part, but if I talk about the whole arrangement, then so basically when we talk about the arrangement, we are talking about the role of the flower. And over here there are 4 whorls of the flower, roll or whorls, however you pronounce it as. So basically there are 4 whorls of the flower. Sepal whorl is calyx, petal whorl is corolla, stamen whorl is androecium, which is the male reproductive part, and the carpel whorl is gynoecium, female reproductive part. See the diagram very carefully. One individual part is sepal, but the whorl of the flower, the whorl of that is known as calyx, the complete arrangement, the rounded arrangement. Similarly, the individual one part is petal, but petals are so many, so whorl will be corolla. Similarly, anther, filament, they are stamen, but the whorl of it will be androecium, male reproductive part. Stigma, style, ovary, they are the carpel. Okay, but the whorl of it will be known as gynoecium. Inside the ovary, so this is stigma, this is style, and the lowermost part is the ovary. Inner to ovary, can you see small locules like structure? These are known as ovules. After the fertilization, this ovary becomes the fruit and ovules become the seed. Imagine in your head mango. Mango is the fruit, and inside the mango there is a seed, that is the ovule over here. Okay, so 4 whorls of the flower: calyx, corolla, androecium, gynoecium. The parts are sepals, petals, stamen, and carpel. very important from the examination point of view. Now with these four worlds only, two more terms come into the picture. What are the essential and non-essential roles of the flower? Now see, what is non-essential first of all, or accessory part? Accessory, you know, some additional part. Non-essential doesn't mean they are not important. Non-essential over here means that not taking part in reproduction or not directly involved in reproduction. Indirectly, of course, they are, but directly they are not involved. That's why we use the word non-essential. Like calyx and corolla, if you see, they are the non-essential. Why? Because calyx is protecting the corolla at the bud condition and corolla is attracting it. Are they taking part in reproduction directly? No. Indirectly, yes. Corolla is attracting the insect for pollinators. But directly, are they providing the reproductive role? No, right? So they are non-essential. Androecium and gynoecium, they are the male and the female part itself, directly taking part in reproduction. So we say they are the essential role of the flower. Clear? So essential worlds and non-essential worlds, or non-essential part or essential part. Okay, on these normally the questions are asked. Now, apart from the four worlds what I taught you, sometimes you will come across the word called epicalyx. Now what exactly is epicalyx? When you see hibiscus flower, what you see that sepals are there, that means calyx, a whorl is there. Below the calyx also there is small leaf like structure. Can you see that? We say that as epicalyx, or it is present on the pedicel below the calyx. We also say that it is bracteole. So sometimes bracteole, basically the outermost whorl, is known as epicalyx over here. Okay, so remember four things right now in your mind. What I'm trying to say is, and that is sepal, petal, stamen and carpel, the whorl, calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. Epicalyx is below the calyx. The flower which is having a pedicel is pedicellate, which is not having it is known as sessile flowers. Flower is the reproductive part of the plant which is taking part in reproduction, that, and you know now, androecium, gynoecium, they are the reproductive parts which will produce the gametes. That gametes will fuse, that fusion will take place to zygote, zygote to embryo, embryo to seed, seed to another plant, and the process will go on. Okay, so that's it for the day. Thank you so much everyone. See you in the next class.